This is the story of how Manchester United went from their worst season in over 50 years to pulling off one of the most extraordinary turnarounds in Premier League history. From 15th place, just 42 points, losing a Europa League final and getting humiliated by a fourth-tier club, to challenging for the Champions League under a man who got sacked by Middlesbrough. This is how Man United did the impossible in 2026. Let's go back to where it all started, because to appreciate this miracle, you need to understand the complete misery that came before it. The 2024-25 season wasn't just bad, it was historically, generationally, embarrassingly terrible. Manchester United finished 15th in the Premier League with 42 points. 15th, that's the lowest league position since 1989-90 and the fewest points in a top-flight season since the club was last relegated in 1974. You want to know how shocking 42 points really was? Liverpool won the title that year with 84. United finished with literally half the points of their biggest rivals. Half. Ruben Amorim, the man who was supposed to save everything, finished with the worst win ratio of any Manchester United manager in the Premier League era, 32%. He won 15 out of 47 league games. His average of 1.23 points per game stands as the lowest of any United boss since the league started in 1992. And that January moment where he faced the cameras after a 3-1 defeat to Brighton and called his own squad probably the worst in the history of the club. That wasn't just a soundbite, that was a man who had completely lost the plot. But then it got worse, because even though the league was a disaster, there was still the Europa League. United actually produced one of the greatest European comebacks of all time in the quarter-finals against Lyon, scoring 3 times in the final minutes of extra time to turn a 4-2 deficit into a 5-4 win. It was absolutely breathtaking. And then they reached the final in Bilbao against Tottenham and lost 1-0. The heartbreak was complete. So the 2025-26 season kicked off, and you'd think, okay, lessons learned, money spent, roughly £250 million on new signings since Amorim arrived, including Benjamin Sesko for £73.7 million from RB Leipzig, the first ever Slovenian to represent Manchester United, a player who had dreamed of Old Trafford since his Salzburg days. Every transfer window, he'd been talking with United. Now was supposed to be the time. And what happened? United won one of their first 4 league games. They sat 14th in the table. And then, the cherry on top of the catastrophe cake, they lost to Grimsby Town in the Carabao Cup. Grimsby Town, a club in the 4th division of English football. At that point, you could almost hear the entire fan base collectively lose the will to live. By January 2026, United had crawled up to 6th, but the dressing room was completely fractured. Amorim was publicly feuding with director of football, Jason Wilcox, telling club bosses after a 1-1 draw with Leeds that he wanted to be manager, not the coach, while pointedly telling Wilcox to do his job. Sky Sports reported that his emotional and inconsistent behaviour was a key factor in the decision, along with a flat-out refusal to move away from his 3-4-3 system. On January the 5th, 2026, Ruben Amorim was gone. He collected his £9.25 million settlement and walked out the door. Gary Neville said it best. I thought they'd get through another couple of weeks. Obviously, it has become that challenging internally that they decided to do it very quickly. It was a shock when I heard the news. Darren Fletcher stepped in as interim, and the first call he made was to Sir Alex Ferguson. I wanted to speak to him first, and ultimately to get his blessing, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he deserves that respect. That tells you everything about the weight of this football club. But the board had their eye on someone else. Someone who knew Old Trafford. Someone who'd played 464 games for the club. Someone who, just months earlier, had been sacked by Championship side Middlesbrough after a 10th place finish. Michael Carrick walked back through the doors on January the 13th, 2026. He became the first United manager, permanent or caretaker, to return to the club since Sir Matt Busby in 1970. And what did they give him for his first match? A Manchester derby at Old Trafford against City. Goals from Amad Diallo and Benjamin Sesko, 2-0. United's first home win over City in 4 years. The stadium erupted, and something shifted. You could feel it through the screen. Carrick did what Amorim refused to do. He ditched the back three. He switched to a 4-2-3-1, the same formation he'd used in 112 of his 124 championship matches at Middlesbrough, the most consistent tactical identity of any championship manager of his era. And then he did something beautifully simple with Bruno Fernandes. He moved him forward. He put the captain in an advanced position where he could do what he does best, create and score. And Bruno responded by breaking David Beckham's club record for assists in a Premier League season, 16 and counting. Harry Maguire said it plainly. Carrick's decision to revert to a back four has rescued my England career. Nothing against Ruben Amorim. He has loads of great ideas, but they did not work at United. 9 games under Carrick, 7 wins, 2 draws, 0 defeats, 23 points from a possible 27. Nobody in the history of the Premier League has ever gained more points in their opening 9 matches as manager. Carrick matched the record held outright by Ange Postecoglou, and he did it at a club that was borderline broken when he arrived. United climbed from 7th to 3rd. Champions League qualification went from a fantasy to being firmly in their own hands. Now look, let's be honest, the title talk was always a stretch. Arsenal sat top with 70 points, City second with 64. The dream of actually lifting the Premier League trophy required, as one blogger perfectly put it, a very improbable sequence of results. But the fact that anyone was even whispering about it tells you how far this team had come. And yes, the run finally ended. April the 13th, 2026. Leeds United came to Old Trafford and Noah Okafor scored twice to hand Carrick his first league defeat. Leeds' first Premier League win over United in 23 years. Because of course it was Leeds. But here's what matters. At the time of writing, United sit 3rd, with a 7-point cushion to 6th place. 4th-placed Aston Villa are right there on goal difference, and with the Premier League set to earn a 5th Champions League spot this season, the path back to European football's top table is wide open. Think about what that means. 12 months ago, this club finished 15th. They had no Premier League winners in their squad for the first time since the competition began. No player who'd ever worked under Sir Alex Ferguson for the first time since 1974. They were a club defined by what they'd lost. And now, Michael Carrick, a man with no top-flight managerial pedigree who got the sack from the Championship, has come home and made Old Trafford feel like Old Trafford again. His contract runs until June 2026. Whether this becomes a permanent chapter or remains the most extraordinary rescue mission in modern United history will depend on what happens next. But right now, in this moment, Carrick said it himself. This place means a lot to me, so to have so much positivity, with everyone enjoying coming to the games, and obviously for me to have an influence on that, of course it feels good, I'm not going to lie. From 15th to 3rd, from Grimsby to the Champions League race, from the worst season in 50 years to matching an all-time Premier League record, Man United did the impossible. And the beautiful thing is, they might not even be done yet.